Breaking the rules, 7 tips for buying a Harley Davidson motorcycle. Now we're going to cover some interesting tips like how to get the best prices, when to buy and when to keep your wallet in your pocket. A lot of people have problems with their local Harley Davidson dealer. We're going to talk about whether the dealer is your friend or foe. Here are 7 tips that are essential, some would say controversial, that are going to help you buying your next Harley Davidson motorcycle. Now most of these tips apply to any motorcycle, in fact to anything at all. I've pretty much used these tips for buying everything, all the way up from small items to much larger purchases like businesses and houses. They're good tips, they're going to help you. Let's get into it. Number 1 is don't buy above your means. I can't stress that enough. Now, not buying above your means should be obvious, but for some reason it's not. The vast majority of people, when they're buying anything, they usually buy to their maximum capacity. Or I should say, they buy to the maximum finance that's available to them. And they do that because most buying is emotional. People who sell know that, and they create emotion around buying. Now, of course, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with buying a brand new bike loaded up with everything at the dealer and some more. It's your bike, it's your money. And if you can afford it and you love it, go for it. I've done it myself many times. What actually happens a lot of times to a lot of people is they can manage this. In other words, they can meet the repayments, but they can't really afford to do this. The mere fact that you're purchasing a luxury item or a toy via repayments implies that you can't really afford it. It's your money. Now, each person's circumstances are different, so I'm suggesting that you ask yourself the following questions. Do I really need the latest and greatest on a high interest loan? Are there any cheaper bikes that will do the job that I'm going to love just as much? Because there's no hurry, there's plenty of good bikes around, and there's plenty of time for you to make a wise decision. You see, if you purchase an older Harley Davidson at perhaps a third of the price, is your life going to be any different? Are you going to have just as much fun? Now, sometimes we buy things to satisfy an emotional itch that has nothing to do with the product that we're buying. So whatever you're buying is always going to fall short of satisfying the itch. It doesn't scratch the itch, and once you understand this, there's never going to be a reason again why you'll purchase anything above your means. That creates peace in your mind and it brings you relief. Now, in a minute, I'm going to show you what to do to save a lot of money when you're purchasing your next Harley Davidson motorcycle. Stay tuned. Hi, my name's Eamon. Welcome to the channel. Don't forget to check out the website oldnotdead.club. Now, why would you do that? Because I've got some great supporter gear that you can wear, like show the world you're older but not dead. Get aggro. Show them you've still got some spunk. So here he is. Give a safe fashion. Now, he loves the camera. Last time we saw Eric and his Resurgence jeans, we actually saw him standing around in his jocks. What a sight to see. I got phone calls from at least 50, 60, maybe 70 women asking for Eric's phone number. So
Lies. Oh, lies. Oh, excuse me. How dare you?
it's absolutely boiling today, about 30 degrees Celsius. We've just had a bad traffic day. We've been everywhere. I am burnt to a crisp, riding around in a t-shirt, but I've got my single layer Resurgence jeans on, which are seriously cool. How cool is that? And of course, to show that Resurgence Gear Motorcycle Clothing are serious supporters of the channel, they are giving a 10% discount to Old Not Dead viewers. Of course, you've got to use the magic words. No, you've got to write the magic words, and that's Old Not Dead when you purchase. It works like magic. Number 2 is haggle and negotiate. Now, if you want a discount, you've got to ask for a discount. Doesn't mean you'll get one, but if you don't ask for one, fair income, you're not going to get one. So to get a good price, it often means you've got to haggle for the price, but to get a good deal, you've often got to negotiate on top of the haggling. What's the difference? I'm glad you asked. Now, haggling means you're just focused on one thing, and that is the price aspect of the deal.
Come on, haggle. All right, I'll give you 10. That's more like it. 10? Are you trying to insult me? Me with a poor dying grandmother? 10?
Haggling works really well. I've used it on almost everything for most of my life except for groceries at the supermarket. But when you're negotiating, it means you're going to include other aspects into the deal so that you get what you want. So you might accept the seller's final price in return for delivery of that item at a sooner date, or perhaps an extra service is thrown in, or you get better finance terms. You can be as creative as you like, as long as the other party agrees. Now, the higher the price of the item, the more important this is. In terms of cash, 10% of a $50,000 motorcycle is much more than 10% of a $5,000 motorcycle. So it's always a good idea to ask for more than what you're happy with. That way, when there's a bit of haggling and negotiation, you've got some room to maneuver. But when the seller has invested a lot of time in you, it creates two interesting things. One, assuming that you're a normal person and reasonably likable, they're going to like you more, and that's going to be positive in terms of you getting what you want. It also means that they are likely to be emotionally invested, and therefore it ups the chances of you getting a better deal. Now, I've used that a lot in the past. It works better for bigger ticket items because obviously you've got to spend time on it. I can't emphasize enough the amount of money that I've saved over my lifetime through haggling and negotiation, especially on the bigger ticket items. Practicing it is going to improve your skills dramatically. Probably a good idea to practice on things that you don't care about that much, because in order to get a good deal, you genuinely have to be prepared to walk away. Number 3 is pre-plan. It's a great idea to pre-plan what you're going to do before you go in to purchase a Harley Davidson motorcycle. If you don't do this, there's a good chance you're going to pay retail price and you'll be loaded up with extra things that you might not want tomorrow. Now, loaded up with accessories is great if you want those accessories and if the dealer's using it to sweeten the deal for you. Now, pre-planning can be as simple as you like. It just means thinking before you go in, I'm going to buy this particular bike, I'm going to pay no more than this, and I'm not going to pay more than X number of dollars for these accessories because these are the ones I want. That's a plan, it's easy. But it's surprising what you'll buy on emotion or on a whim if you don't have a firm goal in mind. Now, pre-planning is going to stop you making an emotional decision. And if you've seen my other videos, you will have noticed that I am often emphasizing the fact that emotions will cloud your judgment and not allow you to think clearly. And number 4 is buying timing. It's not always a good idea to buy. Now, if you've pre-planned, like I mentioned in the last point, you'll be ready to buy when it is the time to buy. Now, if I was going to buy a new Harley Davidson, now is probably the time to buy, because here in Australia, I've noticed that since probably the middle of winter, dealers are voluntarily, and I've never seen this before, offering around about $5,000 off new models. Without putting any effort in at all, you're getting a good discount from the sticker price. Because traditionally at Harley Davidson dealers, it's very difficult to get a discount. Now, there was a time around 2010, which was also a great time to buy. The Australian dollar was at parity with the United States dollar. I think that's the only time it's ever happened. It actually crept up a little bit above that. Every man and his dog was a Harley Davidson dealer importing bikes on the grey market. There were Harleys everywhere and there were deals to be had, good times. Now, sometimes you come across somebody who needs to sell for whatever reason. That's a great time to buy a motorcycle because you have a motivated seller in front of you. Just make sure the bike's not stolen. I bought my last Harley, this one here, at the start of the poisoning program, when everybody was dumping things before prices started to go up. I think I got a good deal. That was timing. Now, of course, research creates great timing. The last house we purchased was for sale across a Christmas holiday period. I took my youngest son, who was then at the right age for an urban adventure. We sat off the open for inspections that the real estate agent conducted on that particular property. We got the binoculars, hung them out the back tailgate, and we counted the number of people who attended all of the open for inspections twice a week. So I had a really good idea of how many people were interested in the property, who was coming back for a second look, and it turned out that buyers were pretty scarce. When it was time to make an offer, I could confidently, and that's the key word there, offer low. Now, of course, we purchased the house at a great price, and the money I saved on that deal alone, I could have purchased at least 6 brand new Harley Davidsons. So it's worth the effort. Now, research in terms of buying a motorcycle will involve knowing what else is for sale on the market and understanding how motivated the seller is, whether that's a private seller or the dealer. Knowledge is power. Now, number 5, be careful with your mods. As Harley riders, we love our mods. I wonder how many mods I've done owning Harleys since the early 90s. I reckon more than 1 trillion. Now, mods can easily double the price of your Harley and you're not going to get that money back when you sell. Now, I should say it's unlikely you'll get that money back when you sell. And it makes sense when you think about it. Like, have a look at some ads for Harleys for sale. Do you really like that exhaust that the guys put on? because I'd probably choose that one. So why would you want to pay for that? So think really carefully about the mods that you want and make sure you get the right ones for your style of riding, because, you know, touring on a bike is very different to dragging everybody off at the lights. You can sort of do both, but if you really love one or the other, your mods are going to be very different. Now, the most common mistake that I see with mods is getting the wrong cam. A lot of people, for some reason, don't understand the difference between torque and power. They see better numbers and they'll get a power cam, which, when in fact they really want a torque cam, something that will give them a lot of grunt at the lower revs or at speeds that are more applicable to riding on the street. A power cam usually comes on at much higher revs, and in real life that means you're going to be going pretty quick before you ever get to use that power. So everyone's different, but in my opinion, I always get the torque cam. And of course, it all depends on your budget. When chrome was in fashion, I saw people getting all sorts of accessories bolted onto their Harleys that were chrome until the whole thing was blinged out. Costs an absolute fortune, especially if you get genuine Harley Davidson chrome parts. And then of course, as soon as black came in fashion, we had all these chrome bikes and everybody wanted to black them out by getting extra parts. All you had to do was wait a couple of years and then Harley would make the bikes black anyway. So just like with clothing, you can buy classic things that stay in fashion forever, or you can buy fashion items and change them all the time. There's no right or wrong, it's your money, it's your life, etc. I'm just suggesting you think about it to avoid the mistakes. Personally, I always do engine mods first and then I do aesthetics last, if I've got enough money to do so. But you know, I know plenty of people who do it the other way around. Now, number 6, which type of bike is for you? It's a good idea to analyze the style or the type of riding that you do. When I bought my first Street Glide, which was probably about 2016, I think, I bought it with no intention at all of doing any touring. The reason I bought it was because I had a look at my riding style, what I was doing on a day-to-day basis, and I discovered that every single time that I left the house, no matter where I was going, I would have to jump on the freeway to get somewhere. If I wanted to go for a scenic ride that was in the other direction, well, I was straight onto a country highway. Now, I'm a decent sized guy and I do like hammering, so the fairing is a great addition to any motorcycle. And of course, the touring bikes are at a size that is comparable to my frame. I think it's the best Harley Davidson decision I've ever made, moving across to the touring bikes. Now, you might be different, you might ride differently, so why would you want to pay the extra for the touring bikes? Number 7, used bikes are awesome. Now, because motorcycles and Harleys in particular are a luxury item, a toy, there are always plenty of used motorcycles that are pretty much brand new sitting on the market, or like new. Because on a Harley Davidson, 10,000 kilometers, 30,000 kilometers, it's not really that big a deal. Now, often guys are buying Harley Davidsons as trophy bikes or as show pony bikes, and they just don't get ridden a lot. And then of course these owners will get sick of them after a while, you know, been there, done that, or they might need to free up some cash because it's not really an essential thing to have.
What's the matter with you?
Not essential. No, of course it's essential. For some people it's not essential. Anyway, it means that there are going to be a lot of bikes that are in fantastic condition, almost like new, with not that many kilometers, for sale, available just for you. So have a look at the used bike market. There's always a bargain or a deal ready for you to snatch up. Because if you maintain your Harley, you're going to get a squillion kilometers out of it. A few thousand extra kilometers here and there doesn't mean anything. And there's no need to buy really high mileage Harleys because there's always one around that has less kilometers. And that of course brings up a very interesting topic: dealers versus private sellers. And both of them have got positives and negatives. Now, if you go to the dealer, they're probably going to sell you what they've got in stock or what they can get. But in return for this, you're going to have a huge range of bikes available to you. And some dealers have got a whole network so they can get bikes from all of their other locations. So it's pretty handy. And with a dealer, it's a one-stop shop. It's really good to save you time. There are accessories on tap. There's finance available if you need that. And of course, you can get all your mods done and included in whatever deal you're getting. With a dealer, you get a warranty and they check the bike to make sure that it's going to be reliable, because they do have a reputation to uphold. Now, in terms of price, you get a business case scenario price, because remember, the dealer's got to make a profit, and I guess the haggling and negotiation is going to be a lot more difficult because you're dealing with a professional salesperson. Now, that's not a bad thing, and I've said it in other videos. Where would we be without the dealers? I think they're essential, and the dealer's got to make a profit. Just like everybody else, you make a profit from your time when you go to work, so don't begrudge anyone else their profit. Still bargain hard. Now, with private sellers, you often get a better price, but so you should, because it's a riskier buy. You don't know what's happened to that bike, and you don't know what the seller has done to the bike. So unless you're an expert at motorcycles and you really know what you're looking at, it's a lot riskier, and therefore the price should be lower. There's no warranty, and they're not a professional that's checking the bike. So if you're buying privately, you've really got to study the seller, ask a lot of questions, look for nervousness, think through the answers that they've given you to their questions, make sure the story is aligned, and go over the bike. Look at all the things, not just the tires. Look at the frame, look at the paintwork, the chrome, look at the small details, and make sure that the look of the bike aligns with the number of kilometers that are on the odometer. You're looking for inconsistencies that are a warning sign. Now, the main problem I've found with private sellers is the emotion in the price. The seller is often emotionally attached to the motorcycle and what it owes him. He's purchased a bike for $30,000. He's spent $20,000 on doing things that you don't even want, and he thinks he's got to make a profit of $5,000, and that's how he arrives at his ridiculous price, and then he's emotionally attached to that, or he needs that amount of money to get him out of some other situation, so it makes it very difficult. The best thing to do with that type of seller is to wait. Waiting patiently and sitting off that particular bike can make a world of difference, because he's going to change his mind in 3 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, it doesn't really matter. Now, often on new second-hand bikes, which I believe is the sweet spot for buying, the seller hasn't really had the bike long enough to reduce the price. And they want pretty much a similar price to what you can get at a dealer. Personally, if the price is similar, I would rather buy it from the dealer, because you just don't know who you're buying it from. In my opinion, if it's a private seller, no matter what the bike is, you've got to get a much better deal. If you don't know that person, you've got to get a much better deal than you would at the dealer, because buying from the dealer, to me, is safer. And often the private seller thinks that their mods are just fantastic and we should all pay for them. And we all know that mods on a Harley are very subjective. And I don't know if anyone wants to pay for somebody else's mods unless you are going to do that same thing to the bike when it's yours. Now, if you want to know more about why Harley Davidsons are hitting the market at low mileage all over the world, check out the video I'm going to link up here somewhere. And don't forget to check out the oldnotdead.club website for some great supporter gear. Seriously cool supporter gear. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. That was fun.